Here we have Myra Flores, 150 years. Finally, it changes hands to Republican. It's got to be replicated in every state, every district in the country.
Bob Stein says Republican messaging is hitting home with more Hispanic Texans, a trend that started under Trump in 2016.
From up there, he'll never get us down here. 40 years in office and not one visit to the border. He's left us behind. That is why Myra Flores is running for Congress. She's one of us, the wife of a border agent. Myra Flores knows crime and drugs are tearing our community apart. She'll secure our border and keep our family safe.
Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Welcome to Veracity. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. In an unprecedented victory, Texas Republican Mayra Flores has now become the first Mexican-born woman to serve in Congress by defeating Democrats in a heavily Hispanic district where they dominated for decades. Flores, who was running for an open seat in the 34th Congressional District of Rio Grande Valley, defeated Democratic rival Dan Sanchez with 51% of the vote.
Hillary Clinton won this district by 22 points. It's shifted that dramatically. Joe Biden carried it by 4 in 2020, and now in a special election, a Republican candidate has won it outright.
Now, despite being a legal Mexican immigrant who is married to a Border Patrol officer, Flores received massive support from the Republicans at the national level with the utter belief that South Texas Latinos also share conservative concerns about border security and America's economy. Also, the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, revealed this on Twitter.
I voted for Myra Flores. First time I ever voted Republican. Massive red wave in 2022.
So with clear support from the prominent leaders of the country and the endorsement from Texas Governor Greg Abbott, it should be heavily noted that Hispanic citizens will go a long way in taking Republican ideologies forward.
I'm Myra Flores, and I approve this message because we must secure our borders and keep our families safe.
Furthermore, Flores, during this special election, campaigned as a pro-life and pro-Second Amendment candidate by blaming the Democrats for rising food prices, gas prices, and taking Latinos for granted. And as the weak support of Sanchez from the National Democrats was barely scratching the surface, Flores supporters made more than 106,000 phone calls, knocked on 34,000 doors, sent out more than 100,000 texts and emails for Flores. This is confirmed by Macarena Martinez, who is the Texas Communications Director for the Republican National Committee. However, in the upcoming November elections, Flores could face some serious competition from Representative Vicente Gonzalez, because the redrawn 34th District also covers an area where Joe Biden won easily in 2020.
The research shows that these machines can and do collect data on users outside mainland China and store them in China. The data is collected at the operation point from software embedded in the coffee maker.
From TikTok users to smart coffee machines, the Chinese Communist Party has now found a new way to gather all your data and use it to become the next cyber superpower. Now, according to a recent report published by US-based researcher Christopher Balding, the CCP is secretly collecting credible data through Chinese-made smart coffee machines that might be installed in your home or in your office right now as we speak. In his report, Balding points his finger at the coffee machines supplied by China-based company Calerm, through which the CCP is collecting your product information, your payment data, your time, and even your location when the machine is connected to the Wi-Fi. And if they are installed in hotels, it is currently collecting data on modes of payments made and who is coming and from where. The CCP's hunt for collecting more and more data is also happening on TikTok. So according to a recent warning issued by cybersecurity experts, all the content that the users are posting on TikTok is directly being shared with the CCP through their parent company ByteDance based in Beijing. But why are they doing it? And what would they do with all our personal data? Well, it turns out that they want to rule this world by keeping a close eye on the movements of the people worldwide. Because if they don't have a sufficient data about what people are thinking or doing every second, how would they be able to create a strategic plan through which they can influence our choices, our decisions, and our views? Here is what Casey Flaming, a cybersecurity expert and the CEO of the strategic advisory firm Black Ops Partners, had to say. The Communist Party of China is collecting vast amount of data. It may not be used against you today, but this information might be used against you, your company, or your country in the future. The same was strongly confirmed by Senator Marco Rubio that we showed in our previous episode.
It is a fact that when you are doing business with a Chinese company, you are ultimately doing business with the Chinese Communist Party. If you're in the Army or the Navy, the armed forces of this country, defending this country, and you're putting money aside in this equivalent of a 401k, and that they are turning around and investing that money, capitalizing companies in China controlled by the military that are designing the weapons that are one day going to be used to attack you or kill your children when they grow up and go serve in the military. That's outrageous.
Lastly, here's what Winona DeSomber, a research fellow at the Atlantic Council think tank, had to say about this as well. The Chinese Communist Party wants China to become a cyber superpower and is well on its way to achieving that goal. Its offensive capabilities rival the United States. Its operations demonstrate clear development of asymmetric capabilities that enable it to achieve strategic goals. And its cyber defense capabilities are robust.
Yeah, it's a good little spot.
Amid rising protesters trying to pressure the Supreme Court from overturning Roe v. Wade, some pro-life protesters are now learning from violent pro-abortionists as to how they should support the Supreme Court. From praying quietly to using loudspeakers to express their pro-life voice, Progressive Anti-Abortion, PAAU group, is now giving enough heat and tension to the violent pro-abortion protesters.
They've been pasting flyers all around, even, near our house, that the night of the decision is the night of rage.
Yeah.
And so it's our job as pro-lifers to counteract that with more love, more unity, and more being able to stand between the oppressed and the oppressor.
Lauren Handy, who is the director of the PAAU group, explained that her pro-life activist group, which consists of anarchists, communists, and animal rights activists, have been a pro-life activist group since 2013. And the need for a stronger approach towards expressing the pro-life voice has become extremely important. Handy said this: "Prayer and meekness, there is a time and a place for that. But showing this righteous anger and passion is just as important. The reality of what was happening was pressing on my heart and pressing on my soul, and I realized that I needed to pivot." So on June 15th, a unique picture of pro-life protesters was witnessed outside the Supreme Court. At first, around 20 protesters from the conservative pro-life group, Students for Life, stood quietly in a group outside the Supreme Court. But the PAAU group started expressing their voice through megaphones. Students for Life immediately joined the PAAU in making their voice for pro-life heard louder. And he said, "We like to feed off of each other's energy with passion and excitement. I think it's like a natural inclination to want to match each other's energy. There wasn't really ever a disconnect." On one side, violent pro-abortion protesters chanted, "Pro-life is a lie. You don't care if women die." While on the other side, pro-life activists replied, "Pro-choice is a lie. Babies never choose to die." This made pastor and East Texas Right to Life director Mark Lee Dixon to state that he praises God for the chance to work with the PAAU. He said, "It's been a blessing to connect with them. Although we are not on the same page for everything, we are on the same page that babies should not be murdered in America." And he also replied, "I have definitely seen how we have all grown together in this sense of unity through diversity."
With prices surging and Americans struggling to keep up, the Federal Reserve takes a bold step to tame what seems like relentless inflation and raises interest rates by 0.75 percentage points, its biggest hike in nearly 3 decades.
We at the Fed understand the hardship that high inflation is causing. We're strongly committed to bringing inflation back down, and we're moving expeditiously to do so.
Americans will pay more for credit cards, private student loans, new car loans, and mortgages.
After the Federal Reserve's steepest hike in interest rates since 1994, a sigh of relief and smile was witnessed on faces of companies existing in the market. However, many failed to notice why Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, had to take such a drastic measure to control inflation. The answer is simple. We are getting closer to recession because of terrible decisions made by the Biden administration. Although the S&P 500 crawled up from 54.51 to 3,789.99 points, the Treasury yield fell from 3.45% to 3.21%. But what we must notice is the clear warning from Powell when he said this: the Fed is not trying to induce a recession now. Let's be clear about that, which means we are getting close to a recession. Furthermore, Powell also expressed that he is taking every measure to get rates closer to normal after he witnessed another record-breaking rise in inflation last month. However, analysts are warning that the rally could be short-lived given how deeply and broadly high inflation has been engraved into the economy, which could soon result in an uncertain future for a very long time. Chief investment strategist at BMO Wealth Management, Young-Yu Ma, said Chair Powell painted as rosy a picture as could be painted. And to achieve that picture that he is laying out, that pathway, a lot has to go right. It's a challenging path, and he acknowledged that. Now, it is true that increasing interest rates has, to some extent, helped the government in controlling inflation. But none of this would have happened if Biden had allowed domestic production of oil and other measures which could have controlled inflation. And it is because of this drastic measure by the Fed that citizens are now facing enormous problems in borrowing from the banks. So if they don't invest capital in their business, how would they feed themselves and their kids with the enormous inflation already hitting them?
Tonight, 2 big fires have burned through more than 6,600 acres in just the past 24 hours near Flagstaff.
So far, it's burned around 5,000 acres, and no containment is being reported yet. This fire is believed to be caused by someone. We're learning more about the man accused of sparking it.
You know, it's kind of a strange situation to get caught up in 2 fires in 2 months.
But this time, there's an arrest.
You can have 99% of the people who follow all the rules, and it takes a certain person who decides they don't want to follow them. It impacts the whole community. This statement made by Percy Pistoia, who somehow, with his family members, managed to escape from the devastating tunnel fire in Flagstaff City of Arizona. But the main reason why he said this is that these enormous wildfires, which you just saw, were caused by a 57-year-old man after he burned down a stack of toilet paper. This shows how disastrous and huge a careless act can become. According to officials, the pipeline fire has already destroyed around 23,000 acres, including homes, buildings, trees, and brush. And due to the high winds, 270 personnel fighting are failing to calm down the fire. The same has been confirmed by Stephen Fillmore, the commander of the California Interagency Incident Team, when he said, "The fire is not over. There's still work to be done out there." As the Flagstaff mayor declared a state of emergency, the Coconino County Sheriff declared that around 3,779 homes have been evacuated since the fire began. However, despite many residents going through unprecedented trauma, there are some residents of Flagstaff, like Percy Pistoia, who are facing this issue with a positive mindset. After leaving his home with his family, Pistoia said, "We already packed our bags and got our animals out of the way. Honestly, it's all about the people. I am just glad that nobody was injured. Luckily, we have friends in town that we are staying with now. That's a good part of living in Flagstaff for 10 plus years." Coconino County law enforcement officers have now arrested the 57-year-old man, who now faces charges. I'd like to thank you all for spending time with me. Now don't forget, watch this video right up here and join me tomorrow, and we'll discuss more truths happening in America. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time.